You hear a lot of talk in the media about the fiscal cliff. And just to give you a sense as to what is actually kind of involved here and what are the size of it. So there's your fiscal cliff. There we are today. And when you think about what Congress does and doesn't have to do from a financial perspective, the first thing they really have to focus on, that real deadline, is September 30th. And September 30th is the end of the fiscal year of the federal government. And if they don't pass a budget or a continuing resolution by then, the government would shut down. I don't think anyone's expecting a government shutdown. I think most expect that there'll be some type of continuing resolution that'll push the budget into the lame duck session, the post-election session. So you likely end up with the budget for fiscal year 2013 having to be dealt with in a lame duck session. And when I mention lame duck session, I'm talking about the session of the current Congress that'll be after the November elections and before the new Congress is sworn in January. So we know we're going to likely be dealing with that. There's also this thing called the national debt. So the debt ceiling likely gets reached at the end of this year, early next year. There's already discussions, the House putting a benchmark out there, at least Speaker Boehner saying there's got to be $1 in cuts for every $1 in increase in the debt. That was kind of an initial marker that he sort of put out there. There's clearly going to be a big debate on increasing the debt ceiling, and we've all sort of experienced that once before, or more than once before, but significantly once before. Then there are a host of other items that expire as we approach this fiscal cliff. There's the unemployment insurance. It's been extended several times already. The payroll tax cut, that's the 2% off of employees. You kind of see where this is headed. There's also the doc fix. A provision of the law came in years ago that limited the growth in reimbursements for doctors performing certain services under Medicare. And every year there's been an extension or a funding that keeps those rules from limiting the payments that go to doctors. It's called the doc fix. That's something that's expected to have to get extended again, or else doctors will get a 30% cut in the services that they provide to Medicare patients. And then you've got these tax rate changes, these Bush tax cuts, these 2001, 2003 tax cuts, depends upon which party you're in. Sometimes they don't want to call them the Bush tax cuts, they want to call them something else. But those are out there, and those expire at the end of this year. And then if that's not enough, there's also sequestration. And that's the whole provision that was put in place to cut. There was that so-called super committee that failed in terms of coming up with an alternative to sequester. Well, that kicks in January 15th. Those are all the items that Congress have to deal with. And they don't expect to deal with it before the election, expected to deal with in the lame duck. So hopefully that's not what happens. And then the one thing that you'll probably look up there and say, well, Mike, you haven't mentioned extenders yet. And technically, extenders have expired once already. I'm not sure you could say they expire a second time. But certainly another year happens with respect to extenders at the end of this year. And as Congressman Tiberay suggested, we're optimistic, but realize there's a battle ahead to get the new market tax credit extended with the extenders possibly in the lame duck.
Is this Congress as the Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner cartoon where he goes off the cliff and, see the little puff of smoke coming up?
And I think I need to have the one where he bounces back up.